Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Vitality Secret podcast. I'm delighted to be here with the founder of Get Lambs, which is EMF protected apparel. So not only underwear, but other forms of clothing which protect you from the effects of radiation from your cell phone and other radiation. This is a topic that's very poignant right now, and is one that's quite close to my heart. I've actually been EMF injured myself, and I have a group on Facebook specifically for raising awareness of the effects of 5G and EMFs and how to protect ourselves and take action to hopefully get it stopped. So without further ado, I am here with Arthur Menard de Calange. Thank you for being here. Did I get your name right then?
You did. Thanks, Neil. Happy to be here.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. It's been a while. I've been trying to get you on the phone for a while. You must be a busy guy with all this radiation going on.
It's mainly because my phone is fully blocked. The
Right.
technology works too well.
So yeah, can you start by giving us a bit of a backstory as to how you got into this? What made you create this amazing garment and protect men particularly?
Yeah, absolutely. So the story of lambs started during dinner with friends. We all got together and we realized that we all had our cell phones on the table. And so we started discussing the fact that it's been years that we hear about the fact that we shouldn't be putting our cell phone in our pockets, that we shouldn't be exposing ourselves to too much EMFs because of the potential adverse effects. But that the reality of it is that we're exposed to more and more wireless radiation between the rise of connected devices, the fact that our cell phones is becoming a more and more important part of our lives, Wi-Fi becoming ubiquitous everywhere, and now 5G being developed, and which is going to 50 times the amount of antennas around. So altogether, we realized that we were taking quite the opposite step of protecting ourselves from EMF. And so that same evening, I started digging into the science behind the impact of EMF radiation. And the first thing that I came across was the World Health Organization classification of the EMF, which is a class 2B human carcinogen, the same as car exhaust fumes. And for me, that was the haha moment where I was like, wow, if I were inside right now, I'm fortunate enough to be in the sun, but if I were inside and a car was running in the same room, I would not stay there for hours. But that's literally what we're doing with the EMF radiation, because we don't see them and we don't smell them. And so that's when we decided to take action. We started looking at whether there were any solutions out there which were actually working. There were none. And I come from a background of engineering. So I started looking at, from a physical perspective, how can we block radiation? Found out that spacesuits actually have an inbuilt radiation-proof technology, because an astronaut going into space is exposed to about 4,000 X-rays on a 6-month journey, and so they're trying to prevent as much radiation as possible. And so we found out that the only way we can protect someone from radiation was not at the source, because the radiation are what enables your device to communicate with the antennas and to have internet connection and so on and so forth, but was to shield the body. And that's how LAMS started and how we created the technology powering our apparel today.
Good for you. It's people like you, entrepreneurs like you, that give us all hope with all this ridiculousness that's going on in the background. People being very unconscious about the technological advances. And, there's so many studies now. There's about, I think, over 6,000 studies that have categorically shown the effects of EMFs on our bodies, being that they cause cellular and DNA damage. And if we're causing cellular and DNA damage in the body, you can pick a disease, any disease, it can create that if we're not careful. And the evidence for men particularly is pretty startling, isn't it? And I think you have this even on your website. It could halve sperm count. It drops the sperm count by about 50% if you're a regular cell phone user and you keep it in your pocket wide awake, as in not in airplane mode, although even in airplane mode, you're still emitting radiation. So it's not only affecting the sperm count, it's affecting the quality. And yeah, can you speak to that for a second? You know, just for a moment or two. Have you found out what particular studies have you found out specific to men just now?
Yeah, so the number one study that is always being quoted is the one done by the Cleveland Clinic, which is the countries here in the US, the number one clinic for men fertility. And so they studied this on a wide array of men. And what they found out is that for men keeping their cell phones more than 4 hours per day in their pockets, the impact was about a 50% less sperm than someone who does not. And the impact on quality was anywhere between 30 and 50% decrease as well, depending on on what you're looking at between morphology, motility, longevity of sperm. And that's just on the fertility side. You've named cellular damage, and one of the big documented impact as well is oxidative stress, which is if you were to cut an apple and see the brown appearing on the side of the apple, that's oxidative stress right here. It's essentially your body not reacting well to an external aggression, which wireless radiation are considered to be due to the fact that they're polarized. But we're getting a bit deeper in the science here. I think the reason why, and this is actually very interesting, The Guardian published an article on this about the reason why we're so unaware of the impact. It's been because the wireless industry has been very hard at work on the PR work that they've been doing for 25 years to try and make sure that there is not too much noise around this issue. And if you look at the studies that are out there, especially the independently funded studies, not the ones paid for by the wireless industry, the results are pretty clear that it's bad for our health. The real impact on the long term is hard to know because cell phones are ubiquitous for less than 10 years now, at least in the way we're using them today. But from a molecular and rather cellular perspective, the impact is very clear. It's on a larger scale what it's going to do to the human body that it's very hard to know what the final impact will be. It could be devastating. The Berkeley School of Public Health actually says that this is one of the biggest threats to human health of this century. So it's a real issue, and we're trying to stay safe from it without changing our habits.
It's pretty amazing how this has all been suppressed, and it's not in the mainstream media. We're not going to go into why it's not in the mainstream media now, but there's evidence for massive suppression. And I heard from Dr. McCullough that the reason it's been suppressed, or one of the reasons it's been suppressed, is because the telecoms industry has about 7 times the amount of lobbying power than the pharmaceutical industry. And if most people are familiar with the lobbying power of the pharmaceutical industry, it pretty much runs the world. Imagine telecoms 7 times bigger than that. So for people who aren't familiar with forces behind the media, this is one thing that might be a reason for this. So anyway, back to your product. I think it's amazing what you've created. Let's talk about your product. In fact, I've got a pair here.
Nice.
Can you tell us how they work with the silver lining and protection and that kind of the effectiveness of them, and any tests? Can you talk about any tests that you have? I know you've done testing on these, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Right before I get into the product, one thing that I think, just to tie into what we're talking just right before about the fact that we don't hear it in media either, it's kind of like the issue with tobacco just about a few years back. And what's interesting is with tobacco, there is no solution except quitting smoking. Whereas with EMF radiation, we've been trying, and we've put out right now a solution that allows you to keep on using this technology without putting your health at risk. And this is what motivates us quite a bit with the mission we have here with LAMS, which is I'm in love with my phone. Like I love what it enables me to do. Google Maps is amazing. Uber is great. There is a bunch of apps that I can't live without, and that's what motivates us every day, to know that we're essentially trying to keep on progress on the right track, but also without harming ourselves and impacting our health on the long term. So the way our product works is we've developed a technology directly integrated within the fabric of our apparel, whether it is a t-shirt or the underwear, the beanie, and the future products that are coming out. And we're using a physical principle called electromagnetic shielding. Electromagnetic shielding is essentially using the physical fact that EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, cannot penetrate a grid of conductive material if the size of the holes of the grid is smaller than the wavelength of the radiation. That's a mouthful, but in order to make it easier, try and picture yourself going through a fence if the holes of the fence are smaller than the size of your head. It's completely impossible, and that's kind of the same physical principle we're using for EMF radiation. And so we're using silver fiber to create this lining in all of our products, which is completely surrounding the body. That's the fact that the enclosure needs to be closed is very important too, for the technology to work. And this fully closed this fully closed enclosure of silver fiber, of tight, closely knitted silver fibers, enables us to block 99.9% of wireless radiation. And so far, that's actually the only physical way known to men to be blocking wireless radiation. And we couldn't block the radiation from the device itself, because if we were actually efficiently blocking, we could technically, if we surround this product with our fabric, we would be blocking wireless radiation. But this cell phone is currently connected to the antenna thanks to those radiation. That's why all of our connected devices emit radiation. This is a fitness tracker. It is as well. I mean, it's in airplane mode, but if it were not, it'd be connected to my phone through those EMF radiation. So we couldn't shield the device itself, because then we would render it completely useless. So we had to shield the body. And once we developed the technology, one very important thing for us was to get it tested, because there are a bunch of, unfortunately, fake products out there, using the fact that it's very hard for a regular person to actually test if wireless radiations are being diminished or not. You could buy an EMF detector, but if you want to get an actual one that will cost you about $200, I would highly recommend you do. But if you don't want to spare the expense, you have no way of knowing if the product that you bought is legitimate or not. So we did extensive testing on all of our products, both in Europe and in the US. And so we've tested on all the frequencies currently used by consumer devices. And something even more important, including, so 5G final frequencies are not fully known, but we have tested some of the current frequencies. Yes, I'll need to look into what the final ones are, but right now we do block 5G as it's been rolled out. And
amazing.
The one thing that was super important for us when we did the testing was also doing it on what's called the human phantom. The human body has some physical and chemical properties which could influence the results of the test. And so we did a control test on a surface which recreates a human body, and checking if the results that we're getting are coherent with the ones we're getting otherwise, meaning are we blocking radiation in real life setting, meaning on a human body, as much as we would in a test control environment. And so we do. So the good news is we do block over 99.9% of cell phone and wireless radiation, and essentially keeping your organs safe when you're wearing a product.
Good for you. That's amazing. Just curious, what earphones are you using at the moment?
Oh, I'm not using wireless blocking earphones. I gotta be honest. I should probably
Yeah.
switch at some stage.
There's only so much we can do, isn't there? I've got myself some. They're over there. They're not as comfortable at all as the Apple ones or some of the better ones, but it's nice to know that they're blocked by air, so the radiation doesn't go into your head. So yeah, your main focus is obviously the underwear for men, but you do other clothing as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do t-shirts, which are currently available for pre-order, beanies as well, and we've got a lineup of products that are coming out as well. The mindset we have here at Lambs is that we're trying to protect people without changing their habits.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it as well so that there is no cost in changing. And by cost, I don't mean necessarily financially monetary, but also in terms of comfort, in terms of looks, etc., etc. So you were just mentioning that the radiation blocking earpods that you're using are not comfortable. That's something that we've been working very hard when it comes to our product in order to make them just as good, if not better, than what you're usually wearing, because we don't want you to have to trade something off in terms of comfort or style in order to be protected.
Nice. Yeah, and they're reasonably priced as well. They're not too much more than just a standard pair of boxer shorts.
Yeah, if you look at the underwear, we start at $29, which for branded clothing is definitely very reasonable, especially given our technology behind. I can tell you that we're making way less margin than any apparel company due to the fact that we have about 50% silver fiber in our fabric today, which is insanely expensive to produce. So we're trying to make it as affordable as possible, obviously, but there's only so much we can do as well.
Okay. And right now, are you receiving any testimonials? It's so hard to say, isn't it, in terms of symptoms kind of going away or anything? But like Tim Ferriss did a very interesting study on himself a number of years ago, about the 4-hour body, and he said the best test for him to increase his testosterone was to shield his body from, or shield his man parts from EMFs. So he took his phone out of his pocket and he held it on his arm. And that for him was the best way of increasing testosterone. And of course, with testosterone, for guys particularly, we need it for energy, for building muscle, burning fat, mental clarity, reducing fatigue. And there's so many bone density. We need it for everything to reduce the risk of disease. We need testosterone. And if our sperm counts are being affected, or the sperm quality is being affected, we need to address that like now. And Tim Ferriss did find that this was the best hack he had for increasing his testosterone levels, other than, he tried diet, he tried lifting heavy weights, he tried others. I can't remember the other things he did, but this was the biggest thing. So have you come across people reporting, symptoms going away or more energy or anything like that?
So we have a few of our clients who have done testing on themselves. One of them specifically that I've got in mind went to test his sperm before starting wearing Lambs and after. And he found results that were actually consistent with the study from the Cleveland Clinic, meaning his sperm count actually effectively doubled, which was kind of crazy. But obviously, this is one person. If you wanted to make it an actual study, you'd need a lot more people in order to control this. We haven't done this. What we have done on our end was it's only a pre-study, so it's quite a low amount of people, but we've measured the heart rate variability over heart rate of people after they do a phone call. So that the body can either be in rest mode or in fight mode, depending on whether it's under aggression. Like if you're sick, for instance, or if you get a cut, your immune system gets activated. And so what we found during this pre-study, which is again like very very low amount of people, We haven't restructured it yet, but we found that with those few people, when they were making a phone call, their body would go into fight mode, meaning it would activate their immune system.
Wow.
And then as to fighting and aggression. And then if we were taking the cell phone away and putting our fabric, the body would go back into rest mode within 10 minutes. And once we get them back on a phone call, but wearing lamps this time, the body stays in rest mode without going into fight mode. So that was also very interesting for us. Yeah, because obviously when your body's in rest mode, that means that your immune system is not fighting an external aggression or not trying to. And so you're getting optimal performance on everything else. And so again, very, very early to say anything, but we just found that it was very interesting science at the very least, that we're getting these results. We do consider working with universities to do broader testing on the impact of wearing lamps on your health. It's obviously a lot of the game is long-term gains. A lot of the gains are going to be long-term. So it's a tough world to navigate. But I think what was super interesting for us was looking at, okay, well, here is what happens when you're exposed to wireless radiation. We block these. So we have a lot of people reporting as well that at least it gives them peace of mind as well to know that they're not exposing themselves to yet another potential adverse factor to their health.
Yeah. A lot of people like to measure things, certainly in the biohacking world. Mm-hmm. So it might be worth encouraging people to get their sperm count done, for example, and then reporting back in 60 days or 90 days, or just to see what's happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some people love to do that, and other people ought to love to do that. I don't really call myself a biohacker, but I do see the merit in measuring all of these different markers. I take basic bloods, particularly the inflammatory marker blood tests like C-reactive protein and the male blood panel, of course, the testosterone and estrogen or estrogen. But some of these could be really worth testing before lambs and after lambs. I'd encourage that if I were you.
You know what the main issue is today is that I think most of the biohackers are wearing lamps.
They are.
We've got a lot of the community today wearing our products. So Brilliant. It's actually going to be hard finding people who are not fully converted to lamps just yet. Fortunately, it's an issue that is pretty well known in the biohacking world today. The EMF issue, and I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, isn't it? Because you have to be a biohacker to be in the know, because you're not going to find this stuff in the mainstream.
Nope, exactly. Yeah,
there's so much BS in the mainstream about health. It's just extraordinary. I removed myself from the news probably in 2012, pretty much, which is one of the reasons I feel like I found so many truths about the body's ability to heal just about anything. It's not what we're told in the media. I won't go too much into it, but you can see I was about to go off on a tangent. But it's a shame that only the biohacking world is familiar with this so far, because other people are because they don't see it in the media and therefore it's not true. There's a meme I came across recently that said people will only believe something's true once they've seen it in the media. So until people see it in the media, they're not going to pay any attention. So I see part of my role is getting this out to the masses to help people really understand. I've shared a lot of stuff in 5G and EMFs, and it's sometimes like crickets. And I'm trying to get people's attention going, we need to pay attention to this now. Pregnant women as well. And women, both men and women need to pay attention to this. And there's a lot that we can do to protect ourselves. And now's a good time to be doing all this. Do you have anything for women right now? Or are you mainly focused on men?
We're working on a women line as we speak, trying to get it out there as soon as possible. As I said previously, we're paying a great deal of attention to putting out products which are super comfortable and stylish at the same time. Yeah. So it does take us time to come up with a new line specifically geared for women, but we're hoping to get it out there in the next few months. So for all the women out there listening to us, hold tight, sign up to our newsletter, or follow us on social media, and we'll come up with something very soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Brilliant. I'm sure there's going to be some questions from women. In fact, there already have been, because I've already shared your product with one of my audiences, and a number of women asked, do you have any clothing for women yet? So that's brilliant to hear. Otherwise, women, look out for your men, because we can be better men if we're protected, and that affects you. So, yeah, thank you, Arthur. That's really interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to add before I ask you your number one vitality secret, which is I can probably guess what that is, but is there anything else you'd like to add right now?
Yeah, I would say, again, like if you're looking for an EMF protection device, the number one thing that I would look out for is making sure that you buy a product that has been properly tested in the right environment, meaning in environments recreating the human body. Potentially go the extra mile and buy yourself a radiation detecting device. We found when we were looking into creating lamps, we bought all the devices out there that were available to block radiation. We tested all of them, and we found that none of them were actually blocking them.
Wow.
Every time I've got a friend coming over with a cell phone case, for instance, which is supposed to block radiation, I do the test with one of our devices, and we find out that sometimes it does not have any impact, and sometimes it has the opposite impact, which is increasing the amount of radiation. The reason is simple. If you actually shield if you actually put anything metallic close to the device, you're messing around with the antenna, and when the antenna is not receiving properly, your phone emits more radiation in order to get more signal. So if you're not shielding, and actually that's what would happen if I were to put this right now wrapped into our fabric, the phone would emit more radiation to try and get signal.
Yeah.
And that's why we're shielding the body and not the phone. And so if you do get even just a little bit of signal, that means that your cell phone is emitting a ton of radiation and is getting the signal. And so your body is exposed more. So anyways, all I wanted to say is just a little note of caution. An EMF detecting device is $200 on Amazon. I recommend the Acoustimeter 2. And that,
can you repeat that
probably...
Would you
that's
recommend?
the Acoustimeter 2. I think that's the name.
Okay.
Yeah, something like this. I can, if you have show notes, I can provide you with a link.
I'll do show.
But yeah, this is what I would recommend, and then try out the product yourself, just to make sure. We have plenty of videos of us doing this with lamps, so you can spare the expense if you like. But yeah, I would highly recommend that to anyone who's looking to protect himself from radiation.
Nice. Yeah, I only promote products that have been tried and tested as well, like Somavedic and Omnia as well. They've been properly, thoroughly tested. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Are you familiar with them? I'm guessing you are.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So, we have an offer from my audience to use a discount code of Vitality. Does that give them 20% off an order over $100? Is that correct?
$20 off any order above $100. So effectively 20%, depending on the size of the order.
Great. So that's the discount code Vitality. And Arthur, what's your number one Vitality secret?
Well, I could tell you wearing lamps every day, but I'm not going to be that basic. I would say sleep, honestly. Sleep has been insanely important for me. I definitely see the impact of a night of sleep, which is actually restful, or a night if I've been drinking the night before, or if I have to get up too early and or at least have too little hours of sleep. So nowadays I really try to get the bare minimum that I'm supposed to get, and I would actually move meetings around in order to get it. If I happen to do a late night for X or Y reason, I'll push whatever I've got the next day in order to get a full night of rest, because I just perform at a much higher level when I'm fully rested compared to not. So that's, for me, that's the number one thing that I don't compromise with. And then intermittent fasting has had a big impact on me as well. I try to do at least 16 hours of fast a day. And I can definitely see the impact in terms of vitality as well.
Yeah. I've done intermittent fasting myself, off and on. It's very, very powerful. And sleep, that's basically our regenerative time. That's when the body does so many things, healing and detoxification and filing system for the brain, and so many things. Human growth hormone, so many things we need to sleep for. So thank you, Arthur. That's been so good. And do you have anything else to add right now other than where do they find you? It's getlambs.com, isn't it?
Getlambs.com, LAMBS, like the animals. And use the code Vitality in order to get $20 off. The only thing I would add is, Neil, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate people like you trying to bring out the right advice to people in the world in terms of health optimization and, overall improving your vitality. It's an amazing mission you're on, and I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you, Arthur. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you. And I'll hopefully meet you in person very soon, as you're just around the corner.
Definitely, as soon as confinement is over.
Excellent. Cheers, Arthur. And thank you, everyone, for listening.